It is the Anfield Wrap. I am Neil Atkinson. After Liverpool beat Everton 2-0 at Anfield. Difficult, that one. Happens a lot. So in the 2023 version of when Liverpool, October 2023 version when Liverpool beat Everton 2-0 at Anfield. For this season, the Anfield Wrap is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. It's a massive run of sport with the Premier League, rugby union, whether you like it or not, and cricket all taking centre stage. And Green King is giving listeners of this podcast 20% off drinks until the 29th of October. So you've got a few more days on that one. Before, during and after the sport, all you've got to do is download the Green King Sport app. If you've not downloaded it before, you'll even get a free welcome pint. So get to the App Store, Green King Sport app, and get 20% off. And don't miss a minute of the action. We will go into Liverpool 2, Everton 0, and Neil Jones, you'll always watch a Merseyside derby with your inner chimp out. The goals come late on, but it's a strange combination of ultimately comfortable but strangely nervy when you didn't need to be.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose often you sort of, maybe your worry is, are they going to score first or equalise? But I actually think the main worry was, are Liverpool going to score? I don't think Everton were ever going to score, apart from maybe the first
literally 90
seconds of the game. Liverpool weird, I thought, sort of overall performance. You'd say, I think they were at the same time a bit too intricate and then shooting from miles out as well. So it was like sort of a weird combo. I think they had 13 shots from outside the box in the game. But again, going back to the sort of a hackneyed sort of point at the moment, this Liverpool 2.0, I did think they'd score. As it was going on, I did think they will get one. At some point they'll get one. I never ever felt that Everton would. So yeah, you're right. And maybe that played a little part in the atmosphere a bit. I don't think it was the same kind of feeling of like, come on, let's get this goal. I think sort of almost the crowd felt, I think we're going to score here and we'll win 1-0. And actually it turned out to be 2.
Josh Williams, I think that's a really interesting aspect. I think that maybe, if it goes 5 more minutes at 0-0, there'd be a bit of anxiety and spread. I just don't think the Anfield crowd, and I also sort of feel the Everton end, and I want to come on and talk about that. I think everyone was just waiting for Liverpool to score. The penalty almost just put, and even the fact that it's a penalty where there's been 2 or 3 big shouts before then, it just sort of put everyone out the misery.
Yeah, it was a strange sort of game, to be honest. I think it didn't overly feel like a derby to me, and I think the early kick-off for me kind of played a bit of a part in like just the pace of Liverpool's game and maybe the intensity of it and things like that, but. Yeah, I think if both teams played as like silhouettes, you wouldn't have known it was Liverpool versus Everton. I don't think either team played in like classic derby manner. And I think it was kind of like a much more dominant team against an inferior side for the most part when it was 11 men against 11 men. And I think once it went down to 10 men, it was just classic like attack versus defence. I must admit I was patient, but I was getting to a point where I was thinking, I'm not sure Liverpool are going to break through here, just because it did feel kind of stale. It felt like kind of a non-contest, even though Liverpool needed to find a goal. But eventually we get the penalty, and to be honest, I felt like a bit of a repayment of what happened at Spurs, all in one game almost, didn't it? Like, getting a red card in our favour, getting a red card kind of overlooked in Konate's sense, and then getting a penalty. So yeah, just kind of get out of there, and another 3 points really.
Another 3 points, Kieran, Molyneux, and this is part of what I think Liverpool, what Jurgen Klopp's wanted to turn this fixture into.
Yeah.
And I think he's achieved it with the home version of this game, and I want to come on and talk about that in a few minutes. But the away version, I think, is still a little bit out of his reach. But he has achieved it with the home version of this game, and it just now becomes so run of the mill. And I think that's ultimately the way in which it was on Saturday. As I say again, if it had gone 5 more minutes, maybe we'd have all been much more fraught. But I was just looking at this thinking Liverpool are going to find a way.
Yeah, it feels like that. I mean, I remember when Klopp first came in, you could tell he wants to take the emotion out of the Anfield derby. He didn't want it to be flying into tackles and people getting sent off early and all that type of stuff that we associate with classic derbies. And it seems like that. It seems like he's got his wish. We just treat them as a bottom half team, and we just keep grinding and keep believing the goal will come. But I agree with what the rest of the lads have said. It just doesn't feel like it used to in a derby. It does feel like it's a bit of a foregone conclusion now that Liverpool will get chances and Liverpool will make things happen. And I think from an Everton perspective, they're probably using that Allardyce derby as a blueprint of just try and just stifle the whole thing completely. Don't even try and win. And see what we can get out of it.
There's something Neil Jones, it's worth remembering Klopp's first derby was the one in his partial season. Lucas has the shot, we all remember that. Liverpool dominate the game. Everyone's tails up, it's a bit of a big night at Anfield, but Origi gets done. He gets the terrible tackle from Funes Mori and he gets injured. And I feel like since then, Liverpool are almost, they're not quite not engaging, but everything feels as though, right, we don't take in every sense, you just don't take a risk. There's no, and I wonder whether or not that's really, that has a bit of an impact, maybe even on the manager, where he thought, I don't want that to happen. I don't want the game. How do we not just win the game, but win it in a way that there's never blood and thunder? There's never a bit of that, and he managed, as I say, I think he's managed to pull, and from his point of view, it's great management. I'm not having a go. I think he's managed to pull a lot of the occasion out of the occasion, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think Everton play a part in that, because I spent Sunday with a lot of Everton fans at football, and even I think they sort of write the Anfield derby off a little bit. I think even the fact that they sort of got the one in the COVID era, sort of like, just that's all right now. For another 5 or 6 years, we won't need to worry about breaking that sort of habit, if you like. They don't really feel like they're going there, I don't think, to do anything other than sort of nick a draw and upset Liverpool. And we saw, what was it? Last season they probably should have gone there trying to win, but they just got dicey, and hadn't they? The season before, they were trying to stay up and Liverpool were going for the title, so it was literally a 0-0 would have been a win for them. But I don't think they, I don't think they particularly played like it was a blood and thunder derby. I don't think Liverpool sort of had anything to avoid in sense of bad tackles or anything like that. I thought they played just an okay game, in the sense of in sense of what they do. So I think it's, as Keo says, really, they're just, Liverpool have just taken them into being a team that's in the bottom half of the Premier League at home, and one that you might have to be a bit patient with. And I also think Liverpool now look, and I know we're going to talk about it, they look and say, what, after an hour we've got the options, we've got the guns there that we can go and change it, so it's no need to panic at this moment.
The other part of it on this one, Josh, is that it's post-international break, and I think you got to see us be, against both 10 and 11, just a little bit post-international break sloppy. And what I mean by that is the manager talks a lot about rhythm. And I think just thinking you can just switch back on when you've been doing something else is complicated. And then that's also further complicated in, well, how many minutes of Szoboszlai and Gravenberch spent on the pitch together? So far, it's really not that many. And then how many minutes has Szoboszlai spent with Salah? Even Szoboszlai and McAllister, who've had the most time together. Well, yeah, but it's still only 8 or 9 games by this point. And that's the case sort of dotted all over the pitch in this one. Even part of that Tsimikas at left back. You look around there, the idea of, it isn't like it was 4 seasons ago, where it's an international break, but then you get back, Fabinho, Henderson, Wijnaldum all play together. Up front, Salah, Mane, Firmino all play together. The back four's the back four, all play. That's gone now. I think we'll see this a couple of times over the course of the season, where there will be odd games where there's not quite not quite as synchronised as you'd like.
Yeah, well, this is why I said before about just kind of getting the 3 points and getting out of there, really, because it was that kind of tricky dynamic when you look at the game, and early kick-off, international break, attack against defence for a large portion of the game because of the red card and stuff. Obviously, the fact it's a Merseyside derby as well, and you mentioned Tsimikas there. I was going to say that myself. Robertson is a seasoned performer who's just regular every single week for Liverpool, and he weren't there. Tsimikas is a different sort of player for me. Gravenberch I thought was very, very good, but you're spot on in the sense that he's kind of still getting to grips with the Premier League and things like that. So it really wasn't kind of like an easy puzzle to solve, really. And I think crucially though, Liverpool come out with 3 points. Liverpool come out with a relatively comfortable win. And I think maybe last season, maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe I think the great Liverpool team that Klopp initially established at Liverpool, they were able to win in multiple different ways. They never really looked, even when they were performing a little bit below standard, but a little bit below their usual standard, they would just kind of deliver a win, deliver a 3-point victory, and just get out of there, move on to the next one, and maybe deliver the better performance next week. And I think this team so far, I still think so far, even though we're I think a point off the top now, I still think we've got a lot in the tank still. I still think we've got much to improve and lots to iron out and stuff. But we're back at that point now where, even despite that, we're winning games relatively comfortably as well.
I completely agree. in terms of having stuff to learn, you can see it. You can see that when you say 8 to 9 games, it's nothing, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely nothing. And these are players that have all got massive ability. We can all see the quality, but they've played together for 8 to 9 games, and that's the most that any two have played together. So yeah, there's lots to learn, and the game is a 12:30 kick-off, international break, which we know, we've seen the stats, the Wolves one and stuff before the Wolves game and stuff. We've seen it. Liverpool struggle sometimes in them games. And I had a mate of mine the weekend was saying, how much difference is it? You know, if you play at 2:30, if you play at 4 o'clock, it's only a matter of hours. But it's quite clear it does make a difference, because you can see every time Liverpool play at 12:30, it's a little bit more difficult for them. And again, attack against the defence for the whole game. The red card for Everton probably makes things a little bit harder initially. They probably get Everton probably switch on even more initially and get more organised. They were never going to go at us, but they lose a man. It didn't change their game plan whatsoever. It was just stifle the game and try and frustrate Liverpool. I'm just made up we got the 3 points because it was a massive game.
No excuses, Neil. And this is one of the things, you know, with Josh's point about last season, they don't feel sorry for themselves at any point. You know, they keep persevering. I even thought the response from all the players to the VAR check on the handball was pure patience, this is going to be all right in the end. And for me, that looks like a marked difference. They were just beginning to turn the screw when I thought the red card came. I thought a goal was coming, and I think the red card, I don't think it makes it, I take, you know, Keo's point, I don't think it necessarily makes it harder before half time, but it just makes it different for everyone. And then I think it is a bit harder for the 15 after half time, because Everton are so committed. But they were just beginning to turn the screw. It doesn't come, but they just appear to have so much patience, and no one's got a hiding place.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you've played in Saturday, Sunday league games where you sort of, you almost hear that shout of don't keep off the ref's back, and it'll come your way, and you'll sort of pay. And I know it's through a VAR check, but I think Liverpool, you could see it was in their mind of, like, you saw Van Dijk almost clothesline Trent when he was trying to get into the referee's ear and just said, no, come away, let's not get into this sort of playing the referee or playing the sort of, you know, the woe is me scenario, which it could be, you know, you could be guilty of doing if you've had what you've had at Tottenham. You could get into that thing of, oh, another one going against us or whatever. They just carried on playing, and I mean, you look at some of the players and you sort of look and go, well, who stood out really and who played really well? I'll probably only say Van Dijk of the starters, you know, who I thought was absolutely superb. I give Alisson his props, and I think Alisson's a big part of seeing the way this team's developing. Those like reverse passes he plays out of the back, where everyone goes, oh, and then just goes, oh, that's a lovely ball, that. And without, I think that's a key thing where you've got used to Liverpool out to the right back, out to Trent, down the line to Salah, and playing out, and now you're almost seeing it. Everyone's planning for that, and Liverpool are trying to play a different way through the middle of the pitch, and it's going to take some time to get there, but it is getting there. You can see more and more signs that through that repetition and that familiarity, they're getting to a stage where they've got that way of playing, and we know that they can always go back to the old way of playing as well. And playing, we saw it, I think it was Bournemouth, wasn't it, the game in particular, where they went very traditional and just went, right, we're going to play with right and left back, and we're going to play down the flanks. They've got a few little strings to the bow now, which is definitely encouraging.
It feels like playing through the midfield is getting a little easier for them. I think Gravenberch for the first half an hour helps that, but I don't think he's the only sort of part of why that's working. I found the sort of the general McAllister dissection after the match to be a little bit odd around that, in that I just think
He played well.
I thought he played well, and I think it's also it's a great example, arguably, of a game where you want whoever your holder is to be able to be really progressive at all times. What's the point of having a holder who isn't progressive at all times, coming up against a team who was sitting in anyway, and we're only going to do more of it once they go down to 10?
Yeah, I think it's coloured a little bit by the first thing he does in the game, isn't it, when he takes one off the keeper and gives it away, and Calvert-Lewin has the header. But I didn't see too much of that. Maybe there's the odd time when you think, okay, Fabinho or Henderson maybe doesn't get muscled quite as easily in a sort of a shoulder to shoulder, but I thought he played excellent. I thought Gravenberch, I mean, I'm all over Gravenberch as a player. I think he reminds me a bit of like if Adam Lallana was what you said, like, you know, if you give him a bit of sort of size and strength, he's like he'll take the ball anywhere. He's got that little roll that he's got with his back to a player. He never seems to, you never think he's going to lose it in a sort of, you know, when someone's tight. He's just got that real confidence in his game, and I mean, like you say, that was his first Premier League start. You know, what's his fourth start? Is it maybe third start? He's only going to get better, you'd think, and I think he's a player that, you know, I know everyone's really excited about Szoboszlai. I think McAllister's going to be an excellent signing, But I think Gravenberch's got a real potential to be an excellent player for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think earlier in the summer, I think I compared Gravenberch on one of these shows to Eze, and I got slated for it on Twitter because it got clipped. It got put on Twitter, and I was like,
nightmare the way they clip you on this. Honestly, don't let you do context. Don't stand for it, Josh. That's what I'm saying. Go on.
This is probably getting clipped now, isn't it? But yeah, he's the way he receives the ball in particular, you can tell he's kind of like a product of like an Ajax possession-based academy and that. And I thought Harvey Elliott made a difference when he came on as well in terms of just like making the ball stick and finding the pockets and things like that. And to be honest, I think it was one of them games where I think on the back of the game, in terms of the results, the referee gets a lot of the spotlights in terms of like either side of the game. Didn't send Canate off, sent Young off, and gave Liverpool a penalty. But I think the way in which we kind of adapted to the 10-men thing, in terms of from Klopp's perspective at least, I think it really did change the game, especially the way in which Diaz eventually won the penalty with that handball, because Diaz was played as a left back from the hour onwards, and we kind of rolled back the system to like the original blueprint that we had with Liverpool, where it was like high flying fullbacks and a midfield department that is kind of holding the fort as a three in the middle. But rather than it being Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho, it was three creators essentially in McAllister, Elliott and Szoboszlai. So we kind of really mixed it up in that sense, and then Diaz is the one who ends up getting the ball in space on the flank and driving at his man, and he wins the penalty as a result of that. So these kind of things get overlooked a little bit, I think, when it comes to these big refereeing decisions, but I think Liverpool generally got it right, yeah.
The thing with the subs, Keo, is it looks to me like the manager's having the time of his life with his staff, that they feel as though he looks there, it's so many options, and he is bold in that moment. They're bold in that moment, fair play to them. They look at it and they go, well, we just don't need a left back. We've got Van Dijk on that side. They're skewing everything to the other side, by the way, which I think is an underrated part of this. Everyone on their team, when they're trying to attack, pulls left on their side. So we've got all this space down there. He makes the big call with Diaz for Tsimikas, and he deserves everything he gets for doing that and doing it that early. It wasn't it's the Alamo last 10 nonsense. It was, there's still 40 minutes of football to play here when he does that sub. He knows it'll be a 100-minute game. There's 40 minutes of being on this pitch, and he gives Liverpool every chance. Knowing he's also got Gomez in reserve for when it goes 1-0. I just think he looks like he's having the time of his life with the subs.
He does, and to be honest, there's been people who've sometimes criticised Klopp subs over the years, and I think yesterday was another example of how he can change a game for the better. It had the potential to be a last 5-minute scramble and putting balls in and stuff like that, but you're right, there was 30-40 minutes left of the game, and Everton were offering nothing going forward, so we could afford to have the extra man in there. I think Harvey Elliott was brilliant.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think another
all
season, he was direct, he was positive, and you can see a pass. He nearly scores a great goal. Pickford tips it onto the bar.
He was about to score when the final whistle went. He was running in on the furious. He was fuming.
So yeah, I mean, I think the substitutions were absolutely great.
I think on Elliott, it's been all season. Keo off the bench. I think he gets stuck in the mud a little bit at Brighton, but it's a weird game at Brighton, as I think we've all acknowledged subsequently, and as time passes, I think in our minds we'll remember it as weirder and weirder. But off the bench all season, every single time he's come on, it's felt like he's made a huge positive difference.
New super sub.
Yeah,
Harvey Elliott. Yeah, to be honest, I agree. And he was it was tough at Brighton. It wasn't just tough for Harvey Elliott at Brighton, though. It was tough for everyone. It was a weird fixture. And before that game, a lot of people were wondering who he was going to play. And I knew he was going to play Harvey Elliott because I know he trusts him. He trusts him big time. And it just didn't work out for Liverpool that day. That doesn't mean that Harvey Elliott's not having a good season, because he started at Brighton and it didn't work out for Liverpool. I think yesterday shows that there will be times he starts. There will be, and it'll probably be soon.
He looks like he watches the game when he's on the bench. He looks like he comes on knowing what's needed. So, for example, get the ball to Salah a bit more. Like, so he naturally drifts out that side anyway, but keep feeding Salah, keep feeding it.
Got outside Salah as well, which no one else was doing, and created more space.
I know Josh said that. I mean, they went back to the old system, but Trent was still quite narrow in the second half, wasn't he? In the sense of
they were rotating.
I could see Salah was having a go. Well, Klopp and Salah having a bit of back and forth. And I think Salah was almost saying, get him to sort of get wide instead of that, and Klopp was sort of explaining to him, no, we want him. We think they're going to work those crosses. But Elliott done that really well. He's also one of them. I think he reads the crowd a little bit as well and thinks, he maybe hears the grumbles behind him in the bench and says, like, I want to move this ball a bit faster. I'm gonna actually maybe sometimes it's a little bit of body language. It's like I'm gonna press this player a little bit more.
Test the keeper.
Yeah, test the keeper. Yeah, I mean, he does look like a player that some players come on and listen. He can all make an impact because they're great talents, but some players come on and just come on. He looks like he comes on with an idea in his head of what my impact's going to be on the game.
I think what he doesn't get credit for, because he's painted as this real technician, creative kind of player, and I do think he made a difference to Liverpool's game in that sense. But I think he had a massive impact on just our ability to sustain attacks by being the first to react if the ball's lost. If Everton kind of got any kind of sniff, Elliott would react really, really quickly, and I think his pressing game, his counter press, is really underrated. He's not kind of like this physical monster who's going to regain the ball far too much for you or anything like that. But he's more than willing to put a shift in that sense, and I think he's a natural, a bit like Lallana was almost.
So this is one of the reasons why I think he's interesting off the bench is I think sometimes when he starts and he's doing that, and other players are just, it's the first 20 minutes and they haven't been Liverpool yet. Liverpool aren't the only team that Liverpool year. Arsenal, Liverpool year. Man City are the man. Their idea of you're going to be second best for most of this game, get used to it. And I think that he sort of either loses a bit of confidence or loses a bit of zip. I think when he comes on, because he's got full match fitness zip from minute one, and he's coming up against players who've already had an hour of this. I think that's part of, because he's doing the right things all the time, Josh. But I think that players are just getting away with him a little bit more first 20, first 13 games. And so in your mind and in his own body, he's like, I'm not quite getting there. I think it's dead interesting when he comes on 60, every single time he gets there. Because I think, and this is the fine margin to the game, if you've already been doing 60 minutes running and now you've got Elliott to deal with, well, suddenly now Elliott, I think that that's one of the ways the substitution stuff is making a difference for him.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well, he had a really good break, I think, as well. With England under 21s, I think he got 2 goals, 2 assists.
Captain.
He seems to be a really prominent player in that group now, and I think Klopp's usage of him as a substitute, I think he's kind of just, he's building them, and you can tell there's going to be a point, I think, in the relatively near future where Elliott establishes himself in a team, maybe starts a few games in a row because of an injury, almost like Jones earlier in there. Like around April period, Jones has kind of established himself now. Where if we're without Jones, some of us are a bit concerned, in terms of the dynamics that he offers on the pitch for us, the ingredients that he adds. And I think Elliott could get to that point soon. I think he's a few years younger. I think he's about 20, isn't he, Elliott? So, but he's got the makeup. He's clearly got the trust of the manager and things like that. I think it's just a matter of time before he gets a few proper chances.
Other one that I thought was unbelievably exciting off the bench, Kieran, was the big man. He's just electric. When he was running through, I love the new way he's doing his bun. Let's be quite clear. It just adds another layer of startling masculinity to the enterprise when he's got the bit bobbing about behind him as well. I'm just overcome with thoughts of Batistuta as he's bursting through. It's too much for me in a number of ways. I'm all aflutter, but he's irresistible at the minute. Everything he does is spot on. I actually think he was the most mature of all of Liverpool's forwards. So Jota had a good first half. It's really weird that Diaz and Salah have got so much end product in the game, but they both frustrated you. Diaz was putting himself in the position over and over again, and then he shows maturity at the very end when other players were taking shots when he could have squared it to Nunez. Nunez squares it to Salah when he could just go on himself, and Liverpool confirmed the victory.
You can see the development from when Nunez first played for Liverpool in that last goal there. We've always seen it from the off. He's full of power, he's full of pace, he's got a hell of a shot on him. Anyone who you recognise as a striker can see Nunez had something straight away. But yesterday when he broke away, you can see he's always got Salah in mind there, and the run's brilliant. And to not be so selfish to try and get a goal when Liverpool were already 2-0 up. It was just pure maturity from him. I think everyone is on the same page with Nunez now. Yeah. But they weren't at first, to be honest. And I love him. I think he's a proper Liverpool striker. The whole fan base love him. He gets you excited, and there's going to be some big moments in there as we get towards the later stages of the season in the cups, and hopefully a title race. There's going to be times where he stood in front of an away end and he scored the last minute winner, and everyone's just absolutely piling to get to him. That's the type of player he is.
Compare it to the same situation. It was at City last year when he raced away and he had 3-on-1 and tried to have a mad shot, didn't even edge the ball. And you just compare the development in him. I think also he had a good break as well, didn't he? He scored a last minute penalty, big goal against Brazil for Uruguay. He's got the number 9 shirt now. It does feel like we're at the point now where he's just gone, okay, I am going to be the main man for club and for country now. It's on me, isn't it? And I think it was a good decision. I would have started him, and I actually look back on it and think it was a good decision because it was you risk the sleepy game, and he ignites it, doesn't he? You know, he was coming on. I felt a bit for Harvey Elliott. The two of them are coming on, and everyone's shouting Nunez, Nunez. But you're thinking, well, okay, that's what you want, and if from your sub, you want him to inject some energy, life, tempo, whatever it is into the game. But also, let's not do him a disservice and have this agent of chaos sort of thing.
Not at all.
He's becoming a really good player now as well. His decision making, his technique, everything's becoming better and better and better.
I think his teammates don't use him well enough. In that, there's about 3 or 4 times when Jota has the one that he piles into the side net, and all he's got to do is play a really easy square ball. And Nunez is 8 yards out between the posts, and you'd like to think, it ends up in the back of the net. Maybe it wouldn't, but I think the agent of chaos. I think if anything, it was almost the opposite. When he came on, I thought he came on, and he came on with the full sense of, right, I'm going to carry this team, and I'm going to sort this out. And that was what struck me. It wasn't he's going to shake it up here against the Blues. It became actually he's just going to do loads of sensible stuff.
Yeah, plays a good centre forward.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you're right to point out Diaz and Salah. I've sort of come away thinking, they were poor, or whatever. And you go, Salah's got 2 goals. Diaz has got a man sent off for both of the yellow cards. He's won the penalty. He should possibly have another penalty with the Patterson one. On another day, maybe you get it. And he's denied by goal-saving tackle. You're thinking, I'll take that. I'll take that from a 90-minute game.
If this is their frustrating performances, that's it. And it's the number of options, Josh, as well. The manager's got Gakpo. He chooses not to even put on the bench. If that was a final, I think Gakpo was probably on the bench, but he chooses not to even give himself the temptation. This is an overwhelming amount of attacking talent for 100 minutes of football. There's variance within there as well. And as I say there, 2 of them you can come away feeling like, his touch wasn't quite right and this wasn't quite right. And they've had massive game influence and contributions.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that's been spot on since Klopp came in, it's been his ability, or whoever's ability in terms of the recruitment team, to identify these really, really tricky forwards. And I think Klopp's kind of he's referenced this line quite a few times over the years. He says difficult to defend. That's kind of how he outlines these forwards. And I think if you're getting in these players who are just naturally difficult to defend against, even if they're playing poorly, just because of their nature, what they offer as players, they're going to cause you problems. I remember a game last season against Villa away. Nunez had something like 9 shots or something. I don't think he scored. I think it was a bit of a messy one, and everyone was focusing on that. But he was a menace. He was an absolute menace throughout. It was a nightmare for them. And I think Diaz is similar. Salah is similar. Just picking up on these players who are just capable of playing poorly and scoring 2 and registering an assist, getting players sent off, making defenders running behind too much to the extent where they don't know where they're going. Liverpool are just really good at picking up on these players.
All right, a bit of movement outside there, but we'll all crack on and we'll continue, and it'll be fine in the end. Just 2 subs. Come back to you on it first, Neil. It's sensible around Konate. I actually don't think the second one's even a foul when you see the video footage of it back. But you can understand why. Firstly, Evertonians are going, good God. And secondly, you can also understand why the manager straight away thinks, you know what, the only way they're getting back into this is if something like that happens, so let's just sort of take it off right now. And I think Gomez, I thought he did really well when he got on at left back.
Yeah, I think it is a foul. I think he gets him with his feet and his arm. I think it's definitely a second yellow. But yeah, good on Klopp. Get away with one, so may take advantage of it. I thought Matip was brilliant when he came on as well. There was a couple of ones where you're thinking, I don't have a problem with you if you just find touch in the sort of right back position.
Oh yeah, and
he doesn't just. He almost deliberately sort of scuffs it so it stays low and goes under someone. You're like, that's just really, really helpful to do things like that when you sort of, you don't want to give them any reason to put them under pressure.
I remember those instances, and one of the things he struck me as, because we lose this sometimes in football, they were really home advantage passes. I know how this pitch works. There's a bit of a camber on the Anfield pitch, and he almost played and he's, think of how many games has Matip played now where he's found himself in that channel and played the ball up the line. And I think you can, sometimes we think home advantage is all the noise and all that sort of stuff. He literally knows Anfield, and I think that plays into the way he does that there.
I think it shows a real good. It reflects really well on him, and I think on Gomez as well. If you think about Gomez coming on at left back, it'd be easy for Matip to go around coming on at 1-0 or 0-0. I think it was. He came on, wasn't it? I'm going to come on, and I'm no risks. I'm going to, it doesn't matter if I give the throw in away, as long as I don't give the ball away. Gomez, I don't need to go too high. What if I get caught out playing it? They come on and go, well, what does the team need? The team needs me to be there. I'm not Andy Robertson, but I'm going to be high on the left, and I'm going to be in those positions. I think it's a really. They both had, I think, pretty promising starts to the season. Actually, you know, sort of quietly, a lot of people, myself included, were a bit like, I don't think they've got a sort of. They shouldn't really be the options for the next 12 months, but they've done well in the games and the game time that they've had in difficult circumstances. Obviously, 10 men and 9 men, and playing out of position at right back and at left back, and you know, in odd games. And it's good. It's good, isn't it, to have, you know, 2 players who've played huge parts in Liverpool being very successful as your subs to come on in games wherever they needed.
Just last little thing on, you know, across the board with them. They are difficult, Keo, when the subs are of that quality and they've got that much sense as being talked about. It is difficult to sort of work out what it is that an opposition side can do. I do wonder whether or not, if the Everton are watching it back in the cold light today when it was 11 versus 11, they'll regret not having tried to get more at Tsimikas, who just had a bit of a messy first half an hour. I actually think he's fine. The second half an hour, the manager gets a grip of him and has a chat to him. He's clearly just a little bit discombobulated first 30 in the game, and Everton really never hurt him. And that, you know, in hindsight, you know, there's one cross Harrison puts in where Tsimikas overcompensates going one way and it goes the other. But the whole plan is pull Calvert-Lewin onto that side and do some bits. It's just not enough of a plan. You know, it's just not enough of a plan.
No, and I agree, he did sort himself out a little bit.
Massively, fair play to him.
But he, in the first half an hour, as you say, going forward, he seemed to be losing momentum for Liverpool sometimes. And at the back, he seemed to have a mistake in him, or he seemed to have something in him that, you know, the Everton could expose. And I agree. I think Everton, I can't really remember whether it was a minute or 2 minutes or so, but they had a little something at the start. But then I don't remember them even going at him, to be honest. And that goes not just for Tsimikas, that goes on the other side as well. They didn't even try and go down the other side. So I mean, they obviously had a game plan there, but yeah, Tsimikas sorted himself out a little bit after the first 30 minutes, and he's obviously gonna play again over the coming weeks because of the injury. So we'll see how he does.
I think to an extent you maybe just start him in a few games now, in terms of including like domestic games, Europa League games and things like that, just to kind of get him up to grips with like the rhythm of the game and things like that. Because I agree, I think he's, whenever we've seen him over like maybe the past 12 months, he looks maybe like a slow starter, or like it takes him a bit of time to get to grips with the pace of the game. But I think that could just be because Robertson's never not there, you know what I mean? Robertson's constantly there, so it's difficult for any player really to get, like Thiago, I think, is another one who maybe takes a few games to get up to the rhythm. And I think if you introduce Thiago as a sub, I think he's generally much better as a starter. But yeah, Tsimikas is a bit of a curious one for me. I mean, I was glad that he started. I think I'd still persist with him in that. But I think Gomez, I agree with Neil. I think Gomez is kind of building himself, and I think he's almost benefiting a little bit from, you know, last season when Trent was tested in like a new role, and it kind of rejuvenated him a little bit. Gomez has played, you know, quite a few different roles already so far this season, in terms of like as a centre back, as an inverted fullback on the right. Now played some minutes on the left as a left back, and I think it's kind of just giving them something new to focus on, as opposed to, you know, I have to play as the partner that Virgil had a couple of years back, and he's maybe not living up to that standard. So maybe these new challenges are benefiting them. But it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what happens in that kind of Robertson spot moving forward. Like,
I think what you see, Tsimikas doesn't have. It's just a little bit of that variation that Robertson has, and they're both obviously very left-footed left backs. But Robertson does have that ability to do that. I'm going to play it down the line, and then sort of come in field and travel with it. Where Tsimikas felt like there was a few times where he's just painting himself into a bit of a corner where he's on his left foot, and the only place he can go is sort of backwards to the goalkeeper. And it's not a bad thing, but he just doesn't maybe give as much variation when he's got the ball, and it almost felt a little bit like Everton were happy to let him have the ball, whereas I don't ever feel like that with Robertson. I always feel like if Robertson's got it, there's that connection with Diaz or whoever it is. He's got a little bit more in him in terms of his quality on the ball. Tsimikas got good delivery. You know, I think his set pieces in particular are usually into really good areas. But I think in general play, I think you lose a lot when Robertson isn't there, definitely.
I think Robertson as well, if he's caught like with a mistake on the ball or anything like that high up the pitch, Robertson's got the recovery pace to get back in and kind of resolve the situation.
The most underrated thing about Robertson.
Yeah, whereas I think Tsimikas in comparison maybe doesn't have as much of that in his locker, really. And I think it's similar in a sense of McAllister, really. I think if McAllister loses the ball in certain situations, again, he doesn't have that recovery pace to resolve the situation immediately, like Szoboszlai does maybe. There was a game a couple of weeks ago, maybe Wolves. Szoboszlai had a really bad start. Because he's got such an engine, he can just recover the situation. It won't really hurt you as much. And it can make you look bad, though, if you can't recover it yourself. And McAllister suffered from that a little bit. Tsimikas maybe a little bit of comparison to Robertson as well.
Okay, coming up now, we've got John Gibbons speaking to Uber Butler about his TV show, which is a load of fun and very much worth watching on Channel 4. So here's John and Uber.
And it's John Gibbons for the Anfield Wrap, and I'm joined by your friend of mine, Uber Butler, regular on the show now, letting us know what ridiculous antics he has been up to. And we'll all be pleased to know he's got an update. So Uber, welcome back to the Anfield Wrap.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. As I said, sort of doesn't feel like I've been gone, given the fact that I consume all your content. But I'm happy to be part of it. Probably should say hello to myself. Hello. Drink some water.
Absolutely. It's good advice. I mean, you say, you're used to sort of listening to us, and I've literally just got from watching you. So you sent me over the preview link of the programme you've got, which was out last Thursday, but is available to watch for people on Channel 4. I think it used to be called More 4. I think it's called something else.
It's their iPlayer, whatever that is.
Yeah, Channel
4.
Yeah, 4 day, can we call it?
Yeah.
No, it's not even older than that. Anyway.
Why not?
Go to Channel 4, watch what was on last Thursday, or hopefully you've watched it already, and you will see Uber going up against a giant in Amazon. And it's funny this, because it does feel like, to me anyway, you might correct me, a bit of the departure to what you've done in the past, because you've got your shed to number one on Amazon. Sorry, on TripAdvisor. Get me large corporations mixed up. You got your shed to number one on TripAdvisor. You bust yourself into Paris Fashion Week as a made up designer, and got into loads of parties and had a really nice time.
It was nice.
There's loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff on YouTube of you doing sorts of fun things but they seem to be like primarily designed to entertain, whereas this has gone up a notch and has got a more sort of powerful message behind it, and is certainly going up against a more powerful organisation than Amazon. Would you say, that's fair? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, it genuinely we couldn't have picked a sort of bigger target for this film. And I don't know, I think that in the last sort of 5 years, I think that Amazon's sort of presence in our lives has gone up so much, even more than it had been before, and sort of its impact on high streets, and just literally how many drivers you see knocking around with the vans, and how many packages there are on every street corner, and all of the cardboard, and it's just genuinely like this thing which is becoming such a big part of our day-to-day lives. And is basically like water now. It's ubiquitous. And I don't know, I just thought it was quite, for me, as someone who, when I started making this film, used Amazon all the time, I just thought it was an interesting thing to do, to sort of ask myself sort of why, I guess. I mean, and when I started making the film, I remember I was doing a German lesson just because I want to speak to Jürgen Klopp in his native language. And I remember my German teacher, actually, in a very German way, challenged me on my own hypocrisy while I still use the platform. And I was just talking about, what was up to at work. Oh, I'm kind of collecting bottles of piss, which people will understand later. And yeah, I guess so I have to sort of acknowledge that that's a starting point for anyone watching, anyone listening, that they probably use Amazon and probably have a pretty good relationship with it. But I think people have kind of maybe an understanding in the back of their minds that the company maybe is up to some naughty stuff. And yeah, this doc is kind of exploring that and trying to do it I hope it's not too much of a departure. I hope that it's still entertaining and silly and noisy. Those are the things that if it was a straight up Dispatches, then I think there are plenty of other people who do a much better job. But a combination of like journalism with comedy is sort of what we've gone for with this.
Yeah, you've certainly hit that mark, and it is really entertaining, and it's good to watch. I especially enjoyed the lawyer who clearly thought you were a prick for sort of most of it. He was good.
He's one of the leading jurors in Britain.
Yeah,
I met him in a pub, and I was like, this guy is amazing. I was like, I wonder if I can get him on camera.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, I did. And he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, at various points, I think he wondered what he got himself into, but I think he jumped in by the end. But the what you're trying to do in your own unique way is to highlight. Which starts, I mean, it goes in all sorts of directions, to be honest with you, and goes in ways that you're not necessarily expecting. And at least 3 points, I thought you were going to go to prison. And I'll be honest, Steve, you're far too pretty for jail, and that concerns me. But it starts with basically the idea that there's been a lot of talk, and like you say, Uber would all sort of slightly aware of it, really, and maybe push it out of our minds or whatever. Is the idea that, it has been reported that Amazon workers maybe aren't treated in the best of ways that they could be. And that goes from the warehouse staff to the drivers in particular to, well, it was, lots of people who are involved. And the drivers have got such ridiculous targets on them that they're having to piss into bottles. And so you decided to highlight not just this, but all the sorts of working practices that Amazon staff were having to go through. And you did become, for a short time, until you were rumbled. Probably didn't help that you said what your real name was by mistake at one point, but you could analyze that back when you watched the video, mate. But
I'll be on Monday Night Football.
But So you experienced it, and you experienced, for example, working in a really hot environment with a broken fan and sorts of stuff like that. And so you were there, but you decided to highlight the fact that, in particular, that these drivers are having to piss into bottles by getting an energy drink which contained driver's piss to number one on Amazon.
Yes,
direct summary of what.
Yeah, I in the one word sort of line is I made a drink made out of bottled Amazon driver's piss, a number one drink on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's called Release Energy Drink. I wouldn't recommend it. But, different strokes, different folks. Gwyneth Paltrow could be flogging it soon. I don't know. It's got a kind of health product vibe about it, hasn't it? I mean, that whole segment is kind of, as you said, I went and worked undercover at Amazon, which is something which is very difficult to do because we're secret filming, and there's a lot that goes into that, to be honest, mate. It takes 6 months of conversations with lawyers to get permission to do that, and then on the third day of work I got someone recognized me and were like, Uber Butler, what the hell are you doing here? Why? And I thought that my kind of Miss Doubtfire disguise would be all right. I would spray my hair brown and sort of like glasses, but lo and behold, the Clark Kent didn't work. I mean, it was quite brutal, to be honest. I used to work in a car factory when I was growing up for about 6 months. And I was kind of I don't think many people, I don't want to speak for everybody, I was never a great fan of that work anyway. It was always just something that I did because I needed money. To go back to it at 31 years old or whatever I was at the time. There is a marked difference. The targets you feel, the pressure from the bosses, the stuff we couldn't put it in the film because I wasn't recording, which is a shame. So we had to take it out. But you're working with people who are talking about the fact there's kind of an open secret there that they all say, oh, you're in pain, kind of get used to it kind of thing. It was, and then, having people telling you that they're, crying and talking to their bosses because they're in so much pain, and then, having to continue working and receiving what they see as like little sympathy. I mean, that is like, there was a big challenge going in. And also, again, so coming back to that thing with comedy and journalism, it's really difficult to know what to do with that because it's not really funny in any particular way. And that was why, obviously, then, as you say, we get out of the warehouse, we start focusing more on the delivery workforce and the fact that, all over the world, I've not been to a fulfillment center around the world thus far that I haven't found bottles of piss outside of.
Yeah.
We kind of found in the film, one of the managers kind of told us that this is because they get penalised for every bottle of piss in the cab they come back with. They get a point, and if they get 10 points, they lose a job. So they chuck it out the window while they're just before they get in. And we spoke to loads of drivers, and they said, look, you know, they're not happy. They feel it's demeaning, it's dehumanizing, but you know, they do it because the people who work slow tend to lose their jobs. And yeah, I mean, Amazon obviously deny a lot of this happens, and will sort of question probably most of what I said. There's a lot of right of replies from Amazon in the film. But this is my experience and what I've gathered over the past sort of 2 years working on this film. Again, this is a lot of very, very, very deep, detailed chat for ostensibly what is still a piece of entertainment.
I mean, there's so much, you know, that I wasn't expecting when I watched this. I was aware that I was aware of your piss plan, largely because
implicated.
Well, yeah. I guess you would describe it as an accomplice. I bought Uber's piss, not once, but twice. When he told me back on board, it's with the text, and that's not even one of the strangest messages I've got from Uber, to be honest. But it's not unusual to be asked to do something ridiculous in the name of his art. Sort of was, but there's other stuff. So it's really interesting that, and I think seemingly coincidentally, you end up, you know, getting a job there at the time when there's lots of, you know, strike action and stuff like that, and the tactics that they're using around the union stuff. And then there's also a kind of a subplot which is around how easy it is for kids to buy knives. And when you talk about, you know, being, you know, on the sort of, you know, on the cusp of serious journalism, but also entertainment, it is really funny watching a 4-year-old buy a knife, even though it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
It is really funny.
It's twisted. That's my nieces, Eve and Penny, who are little stars, and they're amazing in it. But they, we managed to order loads of different products. You know, multiple products that Amazon admitted later that were completely, you know, wrongly listed, I mean, there's a load of stuff they shouldn't have been able to buy, but they did, and there was no age verification. We ordered like 67, I think it was, we did different orders of things that should have been age verified that we saw. We spoke to someone from Trading Standards, and they were like, yeah, this is bad. But yeah, it is true. They are cute. And there's a point where my niece Penny turns to me and says, "We're having a knife party." I'm like, okay. And then she just says,
"Yeah, they really got a taste for it, don't they?" I think it is fair to say.
They really do.
Yeah.
And the whole point being is that the Alexa doesn't have any sort of setting that, you know, if a product is badly listed and should be age verified, there's tons of stuff that we found on there that fit under that category. Then anyone could just order it. And we were getting loads of them delivered, not only through the door, so, you know, they just come through the letterbox, but also like to lockers at the side of the road. Like, you know, it's sort of anyone could get those. So it is, that segment in particular was like one that I think is really good. Bad but good in terms of I'm happy with it as a piece because I think it's saying something important, but also it makes me smile.
Absolutely. In terms of what happens next, I don't think you're expecting to bring Amazon crumbling to its knees with this documentary, as good as it is.
Thanks.
I don't think you're necessarily, you know, expecting this to bring the whole organisation down. But what I think it will do, and certainly what it's done to me, is sort of make us question ourselves a little bit. And you said that at the top that's happened to you, and I sort of, you know, get there at the end as well by thinking, first of all, is it that important to get stuff that quickly? Like, next day delivery is great, but can I wait a few more days for a hat? I probably can.
Maybe.
Although it has got colder.
It remains to be seen.
But can I? But, you know, can we all wait? Do we need everything now? And I think that's the thing for society. You know, as cheap as possible is brilliant, but at the same time, if we're paying, say, 5-10% more for something that's a fairly low cost item, and then that organisation we buy it off is, for example, paying tax, and then you don't have to fill the potholes, which you do. But we might not have time to cover.
Right.
But you talk about the tax implications of what Amazon are doing as well, and basically what impact I think it might make and hopefully will make, and presumably, without putting words into your mouth, what you're after is to try and make us be a bit more responsible consumers, because Amazon points out, and sort of not unfairly, although they are massively passing the buck, but I take the point that this is coming from effectively consumer demand.
Yeah, it's a good point, and that's kind of, I talk about throughout the film, establishing a pattern of behaviour at Amazon, like that they love a loophole. Like, we look at the way that they deal with the union effort in Coventry. They use a loophole. They take in loads and loads of workers, allegedly. And then with the piss bottle thing, it's all down to, technically it's the responsibility of the drivers. It's not really their fault. There's always a way out that kind of, that's the thing. The thing with the age verified products, I don't know what the loophole is there, but and then the thing obviously with the tax stuff, there's loads of loopholes. Why am I talking about loopholes? I guess their biggest one, the biggest loophole is us, really. It's about what we want and what we give a shit about. Because if they are the most customer obsessed company on earth, which they say, then they should care if we care. If we say that isn't right. I mean, I think there was obviously, in 2016, before 2016, Facebook were one of the most sort of trusted corporations in the world. Everyone, loved that company. They used it religiously. Then you have obviously the two elections, the Brexit one and the Trump one in 2016, 2015. And then the companies, the way people trust that company is completely changed. After that, Facebook was never the same. And before that, that was unimaginable. So I do think that things can change with these huge tech giants that are basically forming public infrastructure now, is what we're talking about. Whether that's information on Facebook and your relationships, or with Amazon, it's consuming. I don't think that I don't basically think that it's a world without these platforms is as unimaginable as we think. But the film is not preaching to people, telling them to delete their Amazon or whatever, or do whatever. I think it's basically just giving people, knocking the power into their court and telling them that Amazon is giving you a lot of power by saying that you're all they care about. So use it.
Absolutely. The program goes out. Well, it went out on Thursday. We recorded it just before. It'll be out by the time you hear this. You will maybe know whether Uber is in prison or not. I'm hoping not, but I will come and see you.
Thank you.
Just out of interest, really. Maybe that's my next documentary. But you want everyone to watch it. Is it going to be available internationally? I presume people could sort of log on and watch it. We're international, Uber. There'll be people all over the world who can kind of watch it. Where did you go? What places did you go filming this? Come on.
We went to LA. We went to Coventry. Have you heard of it? Yeah. We went to, Jesus Christ, London. We went all around the surrounding areas of the southeast, because that's where I live. Where else did we go? I don't even think. Oh, when we were filming Potholes, we went all over the place. We were filming potholes all around Britain. So Britain and then the US basically for this one. But we spoke to drivers in Italy, Spain, different parts of the world. So it's international. Trying to blag my way into having a lifestyle where I don't have to deal with London in February.
Well, you're still my favourite blagger, Uber. Thank you so much for coming on. Best of luck with it. Encourage everyone to watch it. What's it called? I don't even know what it's called.
It's called The Great Amazon Heist.
There we are. It's really good. I've watched it. Up to Neds.
Okay, back. Thank you very much to Uber, and thanks to John as well. I just want to do a little bit here on the fixture. It's sort of deteriorating, and I think that it feels like it's an event. It's put on the telly. You understand why it's put on the telly. It's literally the oldest derby in the country. It's the one that's been played the most times in the top flight. The one that's been played the most times, including the top flight and major cup competitions. It's a game that's steeped in history, but the home fixture, the Anfield derby, it just feels to me like it's pretty much finished. I mean, it's a 12:30, and I don't want to. This isn't like supporter wars or bants. the Everton end was quiet, but in comparison to what often the Everton end's unbelievably loud. I thought they were quiet. 12:30 doesn't help. We were a bit quiet, although I thought we were all right in general, but still, it used to feel like a runaway train of a fixture, but now it just feels like a roller coaster in that ultimately it's going around on a track and everyone's strapped in and it's going to be all right in the end. And I don't know quite what you do, and that I think the problem is massively obviously where Everton's status is in a number of ways at the minute. But it just, to me, I'm built up for it, and it almost finishes, and I'm like, oh, was that it then?
Yeah. I know what you mean, and I think there's a few factors involved here. One being what we said at the start of the show about Klopp completely trying to remove that, and so there's no big massive tackles flying in the first few minutes, and we treat them as a bottom half side that we play football against and we grind down. That's a factor. A factor is Everton are completely deflated as a fan base, and you're right, they weren't as loud. I mean, they got a corner late on, and even that wasn't like a usual Everton end. So I don't know exactly how you fix it. I mean, I don't know what the score is. Putting it at 12 after an international break doesn't help, to be honest. It doesn't. I mean, I can't remember at 12 fixture at Anfield where it was absolutely rocking, an hour before the teams walk out and everyone, was singing for 90 minutes. It just, them fixtures at them times just don't do that. But, it is a derby and it should be more than that. It should be, because all week you are building up to that. You're winding Evertonians up, they're winding you up. You're looking at videos of their kite flying in on Phil Neville and you think, this is going to be tasty, and then you get there and it's not like that anymore. It's just not like that.
Yeah, I think that over the past couple of years, maybe mainly since Klopp really, but even dating back before that, they're just polar opposites in terms of how they've been run as institutions. Like maybe the spend isn't even that different, but in terms of the decision making and just how to build a squad, how to sell players, how to buy players, where to buy players, just completely different. And it's just resulted in over the years. I mean, there was already a bit of a gap, but it's just become a bit of a chasm over the past couple of years, and to the extent where now it's a bit of a non-contest really. And I said earlier on, like, it felt like it didn't overly feel like a derby, and if both teams were playing as silhouettes, it could have been Liverpool against, I don't know, Bournemouth or something like that. It could have been that kind of game. But I think most of all, it does stem from Liverpool over the years just making really, really smart decisions in the market, with the exception of maybe last summer. Maybe got it wrong that time, and maybe the two clubs come a little bit more closer together that time, and Everton just being consistently fighting fires and not really building anything sustainable and that sort of thing.
Where we talked through the season, Neil, on and off, about you're looking at 15 teams who've got at least one player who could scare the life out of you. The one I always come back to is Wolves and Neto. Wolves will probably finish 12th, 13th, 14th, maybe even 15th. But Neto, top quality player, no getting away from it. I think Calvert-Lewin's great. I think he's really impressive, but he can't do it on his own. He's not Neto. He can't get you 40 yards up the pitch. That's not the sort of footballer he is. And Calvert-Lewin is sort of their one. And he's well better than anything that Burnley have got, or Sheffield have got, or who the other lot, Luton have got. He's well better than anything any of them have got. And he's part of the reason why they'll be absolutely, all things being equal, and they may not be, but all things being equal, they should be fine. But they're in such trouble off the pitch. One, for reasons that some of that Josh has gone into, and which a lot of people, well, more and more people are beginning to report. Number one, but also number two, it is just sort of symbolic of the gulf between the sides who are in the top six of the Premier League and the sides who are in the bottom six. It is almost like a different division of football now.
Yeah, that's it. I was listening to a podcast about Italy, or about the international break, talking about Italy and saying, sort of big fuss made about England beating Italy. It's like, well, Italy haven't got any world-class players. It's like, where are the players? And I think there is a bit of that with Everton, where it's like, you can go to Anfield with your hope and you can think, oh, we might just nick one today, but you're not going there with this sort of like, if he has a good game today, he'll tear them apart, or they'll find it hard to contain. They haven't really got any players that you get behind.
I think Decore scored 3 or 4 this season. You barely saw him on Saturday, if you know what I mean. And a lot of it's how the build's
he's like their number 10.
Yeah.
Abdoulaye Decore. You think even just a few years back, they had James Rodriguez, and just a little bit more at Luca Dini. Even you were sort of thinking, well, at least they're sort of quality sort of players. Now you're looking around that team. I think James Garner's a decent player, and I think Branthwaite's a decent player. Calvert-Lewin is. But you're really looking and saying there's not much inspiration. There's not. I mean, who are you getting on your shirt? If you're an Everton, if you're a young Everton fan, who's your man? You know, who you going and saying, do you know what, that's our sort of star player, really. You know, they don't really have that about them, do they? And I think that is a worry for them, obviously, short term, medium term, and it's another reflection of what Josh says, really, that they've consistently managed to manoeuvre their way out of having good players almost. They've either not been able to hang on to them, or they've overlooked them, or they've just gone and bought the wrong ones, or they haven't had the money to buy the right ones.
And also there's
all of them.
And now there's the whole off the pitch thing, which just looks like, I mean, we're now at the point where we're genuinely talking here about job losses if things go a certain way. And I think, you know, very much, I don't want Everton to win as much as a tombola, but I don't want people in Liverpool to end up with in a situation where you could be looking at job losses en masse because of how the club's been run.
Yeah, it's frightening, really, isn't it? I don't know whether I just haven't seen it, but it does feel a little bit like it's sort of crept up on people and not really been as huge a deal. And maybe that's a little bit of part of what you're talking about, the fixture, in the sense of Everton almost slid into this kind of void of they're not even really talked about, you know, as much as they should be, in a good way or a bad way. They're not even, the focus isn't even on them as much. The next few weeks for them, next couple of months, huge, aren't you? Know, they're talking about, you never mind job losses. You're talking about point losses, and they haven't got a lot to give in that sense. They're under a lot of pressure off the pitch. You know, maybe that explains why the away end's a little bit quiet at the moment. And, you know, as I say, I spoke to a lot of Everton fans on Sunday, and it isn't the same conversations that you often have around derbies of sort of even the sort of the injustice of the Canate decision.
I felt like a karaoke version of it all.
Yeah, a little. I heard one of the lads said perfect result for everyone. You get the points, we get the sort of semi-moral, you know, what's the word? Upper high ground. That's exactly the word. But in the end, it was almost like, all the hits were played.
Yeah, everyone got what they wanted, including the 2-0 defeat. More accurately, the manager, I'm just struck that and I understand why he does the same thing in the game against Arsenal. He's setting up for it to be 1-0 on 90. And I understand, I don't think it's ridiculous, but I just think that you can't keep going to that well over and over again. I think you're going to bring people with you. 1-0 on 90 is just no way to live. Certainly when people are giving up the free time and a fair bit of money. But anyway, Toulouse. Josh, there's a thing we've done all season where everyone will think, he's going to make wholesale changes because it's the Europa League game, and then the team comes and he's not made wholesale changes. And I feel as though this is going to be another one, not least because it's 3 homes for Liverpool in a week, where we're going to think he's going to make wholesale changes. And then he doesn't, and I think he's doing that. Like, I, for instance, think there's a fair chance Tsimikas starts. I think there's a fair chance Gravenberch starts, because he's managing fitness and rhythm into these footballers who are maybe lacking a little bit of it. There's a chance Trent starts for me, because, again, he's not had a ton of games recently. You know, I think there's a chance Salah starts, because it's at home and he's not got a training session on Friday. You know, so when I say pick as a team, I think that we always sort of default to a sort of it'll be 9 in and 2 will stay and all this. I think there's a chance it's maybe just not quite that. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, well, I said before, you know, I think I'd probably start Tsimikas, to be honest. I would be interested to see Gomez from start to finish in this left back role, just to see how he interprets that. But I would probably play Tsimikas just because he's so free of minutes that you can probably just play him for a fair few games in a row now and not really worry about problems or anything like that. He does seem to have a bit of a second string team at the minute, and I think the general goal is to keep everybody to a certain degree match fit and sharp enough to be able to come onto a game in the Premier League maybe and not really feel the pace too much. But I think there's certain players a level above that who have to be as sharp as possible at all times, like a Trent, like a Salah. And if they need minutes to just kind of get to that optimal level, you probably play them ahead of, say, for example, like giving minutes to, I don't know, an Endo or someone like that who might need them a bit more in terms of just getting to the standard level of sharpness, if you see what I mean.
Absolutely, that's what I think it is. I think, you know, Kieran, I think that we, again, in our heads, we see it as energy levels and we see it as don't take a risk because of injury. But the thing I keep coming back to is they're playing Thursday night, and whether we like it or not, they're playing Thursday night. So that means that they're not training Friday properly. So playing's training and training's playing, and that's why I think there's every chance Salah gets at least 45 in this one on Thursday night, off the basis of, well, we want to keep him sharp before we play against Nottingham Forest. It's an 8-day gap between the two, so I understand why a lot of Liverpool supporters can't believe he's risking Salah in this one. But his flip side is, well, if he's blunt when the Forest game comes, I don't want that either, and I think we're going to have to get into the rhythm that this is a little bit of what he's going to do.
And also, we talked earlier in the show about these players hardly playing together. this season, maybe 8 or 9 games is the most that, midfield's played together, or some of the forwards have played together. So I think there's an opportunity for Liverpool to keep finding rhythm, and as you say, to keep people extra sharp. I do think I think there's a possibility Elliott could start.
Yeah, very much so.
I think he will probably go with Tsimikas, but he made a point before the derby, didn't he, in the press conference, where he said, Tsimikas is not going to play every game between now and Robertson coming back.
Luke Chambers off in the 21s at half time yesterday.
Really?
Quansah and Chambers both went off at the break. So, Scanlon came on. He was on the bench on Saturday.
Got 45 himself.
Yeah.
So I think we're not going to see a point in the Europa League where Klopp plays what we class as a weakened team. I don't think you're going to see that, but you're also probably never going to see a full strength first Premier League 11 until the later rounds. It's going to be somewhere in between that, isn't it?
I think it's very interesting, and I think also 5 subs. We've talked about 5 subs in one sense. 5 subs also plays into this. 5 subs is half your outfield, and that's he can change half his outfield. He can give 2 different players 45s each. He's still got 3 subs to play with second half. None of this is taken to lose lightly, although it is worth saying they've only won 2. The 10th in the league. They've only won 2 league games so far this season, but they are difficult to beat. They drew with PSG, so it's not taking them lightly. But I think the manager is. I think we see managing fitness as, well, he just doesn't play and he just doesn't play and he just doesn't play. I think the manager sees managing fitness as, no, I want them as sharp as possible for the games. I want them as sharp as possible.
Yeah, Salah and Nunez started the Union San-July game, didn't he? So I could see a similar situation with 2 of them. I mean, you got Gakpo to come back in. He's got a few missing that would have probably been looking at the Europa League. Bajcetic, Ben Doak, not available at the moment. Thiago, obviously, still not available. You think there's a few that are sort of, I think, are absolutely nailed into stock. I think Kelleher starts.
Yeah. He
wasn't fit, obviously, for the last game, but I think he'll come in for it. I think Quansah will start 100%.
You think Matip would start?
I think Endo starts.
Yeah,
absolutely. And you would have to say Curtis will play with being still suspended.
You've got 4 of mine there. Excellent. Keep going.
Yeah.
Do it like bingo.
Okay. I mean, I suppose it's a tough one because Gakpo wasn't on the bench, but he's back training. I think he's probably straight in for me. Yeah, I'm looking at the centre back situation and the right back. I think Gomez plays at right back and Matip at centre back. And then you can pick. I mean, Elliott probably deserves a start and needs a start. What am I missing? Left back.
I think he might go for Trent over Gomez in a bit of a weird way. It might be one of them where Trent just gets 45.
Yeah, I'm with the young lad at left back. I think that's telling. I think that he's had a look at both of them in an under-21s game on
against
Sunday.
Benfica as well, so it's good level.
Absolutely. It was quite a strong 21 side. It beat Yaros in goal. It had Quansah obviously played, who's almost elevated himself above that level. Kay Gordon came off the bench in the second half as well.
How did he look?
I didn't see it, but 25 minutes he got, so that's money in the bank as far as he's concerned. So later in the season, hopefully we'll see him sort of start to push around that end. So I'm looking at it. Might be one of them where you've just sort of let the 2 out of the cages and see who runs the furthest. And you've got Luke Chambers and Callum Scanlon. They're 2 good young players who I don't think would be phased playing at Anfield. So I wouldn't be averse at all to playing one of them on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think the back line is probably the interesting one for me. I think we've obviously got like a multitude of options up front, and we kind of know roughly what it's going to be in terms of like that established 5 is going to be 3 of them, really, isn't it? Maybe Doak will get thrown in there, but in terms of the back, say for example if you do play Chambers, maybe you want a bit more of an established player next to him. Maybe Virgil then plays. I can't see Virgil playing personally, but I would like to see Quansah play. You probably don't play Quansah with Chambers at the same time. You probably give them 45 each maybe or something like that. But it's going to be interesting to see what he does, because I don't want Konate on a pitch, even though he came off early. I don't really want Virgil playing personally, but other than that, I'm quite easy regarding the back. I'd be interested to see like if he's doing the Jones as a right back thing again. We did that a couple of weeks ago. But
Diaz at left back.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, but it feels like a bit of a competition where we can get match sharpness up, but you can also experiment as well in a tactical sense. So I think that's been interesting for me to watch. Like,
we're all confident going into it. Confident.
Yeah, confidence. I think we've got a squad that can do this. I don't think it is a case of play the kids like it used to be anymore, and we keep our Premier League squads completely away from this competition. It's a chance for people to keep progressing, keep developing. I think I agree. You'll play Elliott and Jones in midfield. I think you definitely see that. I think you see Quansah. I think after Matip at the weekend coming on looking so assured, he'll play as well. So, like, semi-strong side, and we'll do them 2 or 3-0. Yeah.
got to be confident. I mean, the thing is, it's always worth remembering. It was for Union as well. It's the biggest game of these Toulouse players' lives. So you've got to respect that. You've got to respect it for them. This is it. This is the one that they've wanted when the groups come in. That's not to say they can't get out the group. It's interesting where the group currently sits. I think that's also in Liverpool's favour, Neil, and that there's a chance that Liverpool, if they can get to 12 points from 4 games, may well be qualified through at top because everyone else can take points off each other. But it is worth saying for the Toulouse players, this is a huge football match.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I think that maybe feeds in a little bit to the performance of Union in that game, and that's, I think they do see it as a little bit like tourists. I don't think it'd be like that over there, or it wouldn't have been like that over there had it been the reverse fixture. But yeah, it's the way Liverpool handled that game. It was very sleepy, sort of second gear 2-0 win. I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's something similar on Thursday.
The one thing that does happen in the Union game that is they have a couple of opportunities first half to stop it from being that sleepy at 2-0 and maybe making it a sleepy 3-0 or 4-0. And I think that's what if there's something to take from the derby where they don't counter-attack, they counter-attack very well until the halfway line, and then they don't counter-attack very well after the halfway line until Nunez comes on. Josh, I think that might be something he does want to see an improvement of from both the Union game and that one, is that, lads, when these opportunities come, we've got to be a bit more ruthless. I don't care who the opposition is, and maybe, just maybe, that's what you might get to see first half against Toulouse.
Yeah, and I think it could be quite an entertaining game, to be honest. Like, I've never actually watched Toulouse, but from what I know about them, they're kind of building this like really attacking identity.
Quite Red Bull.
Yeah. Very much like a data-driven club. I think they're involved with the whole Redbird stuff, and they won there. They got promotion through goals above anything else. Damien Kamolu's over there, and he's kind of talked about all this sort of stuff. So I think it could be along the lines of like, do you remember when we faced Salzburg at Anfield a couple of years back? I think it was 4-3, wasn't it? I don't think they'll test us to that extent. I don't think there'll be any like little Minaminos in there for us to scout or anything like that. But I think it could be two really attacking. I think they're going to go into it knowing that it's quite unlikely that they're going to steal anything from us. And with that being the case, knowing that they're kind of building this identity, they might just kind of go out there and basically have a go and see what happens almost.
Excellent stuff. Look forward to it Thursday night in the Europa League. It's been a pleasure. This one, thanks a lot to Uber and to John. And in the room, produced by Andy Heaton and Sam Walkerdine, we've had Neil Jones, Josh Williams. New newsletter, I believe. Tactics, what you doing?
Yeah. I've been doing stuff for .com for a while, but it's kind of back on the echo scene now a little bit. And every week I'm doing a kind of long read on the Liverpool game over the weekend, and it's only available on the app. It's on the paid side of the app. They're hoping that my audience comes over.
Oh yeah,
which is probably a nice positive for me. Like, whether it's happening or not, I don't know, to be honest. I'm just avoiding the numbers for now. But
always avoid the numbers.
Definitely.
Andy keeps trying to tell me. Just avoid the numbers.
The big thing with the echo stuff though, people hate the adverts. And if you go on the app, it's completely ad free, and you can read a long read, tactical read on Liverpool's. Like I touched on the Diaz as a left back thing, rather than just touching on Craig Pawson being centre stage, that kind of stuff, rather than reading about the narrative stuff that you'll see in the back of the papers.
Excellent. All going well with you?
Yeah, can relate to Josh there with the bringing the numbers over and bringing the audience over. It's a daily struggle. You've got to get out of that refresh habit. But all good. Plenty to keep your
occupied. Only let yourself look
once
a week. Only let yourselves look once a week.
Don't
talk to Craig Cannon.
That's too. I try to avoid that anyway, to be honest. But yeah.
Kieran, any gigs coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles in a couple of weeks.
Marvellous.
With the supporters club out there. But the biggest gig at the moment was working with you lads last week.
In Brighton?
No, modelling your t-shirts.
I was going to say...
modelling the t-shirts are marvellous. I forgot about the t-shirts. I don't look at the numbers.
Don't look at them now anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was a musician. I just thought he was a... Freeman's catalogue.
Also, I should have said earlier on, by the way, if you are in the United States, we'll be in the United States. So Keo's in Los Angeles, we're there as well. Haran's going to kill me. I said to him, I'll go big on it. I'll do it before anything else. I said to him, and I've done it last. So buy tickets, because Craig will not slaughter me in the office if you do. We are in the United States. We will be going to, we're in North America because we're going to Chicago. Then we're going to Vancouver. It's during the November international break. Then Los Angeles. Then Phoenix. Then Austin. Then Atlanta. I've just done it on the paper there. It's a big C around the continent of North America. Do come and see it if you've got the opportunity to do so. We'll be in all those places having a whale of a time, especially because this team are that good. Liverpool 1 point off the pace as it stands. And ultimately, the next three, touch all the wood in the world, they should be relatively straightforward. It's the time to make hay while the sun shines. That's the Anfield Wrap.